Let's consider some useful properties of inequality. The transitive property of inequality is useful for solving certain compound inequalities, as we will see. The transitive property states that if A is less than or equal to B and B is less than or equal to C, then A is less than or equal to C. So given three quantities, if we know the first is less than or equal to the second, and the second is less than or equal to the third, then the first is also less than or equal to the third. The next four properties are particularly useful when solving inequalities. The addition property says if A is less than or equal to B, then A plus C is less than or equal to B plus C. In other words, we can add any quantity to both sides of a given inequality. For example, in solving the inequality x minus 2 less than or equal to 7, we can add 2 to both sides of the inequality. This gives that x is less than or equal to 9, which is the solution to the original inequality. The subtraction property follows immediately from the addition property, since the definition of A minus C is A plus the opposite of C. The subtraction property says that you can subtract any quantity from both sides of any given inequality. For example, to solve the inequality x plus 5 less than or equal to 13, we can subtract 5 from both sides of the inequality to produce that x is less than or equal to 8. The multiplication properties for inequalities depend on whether the multiplier is positive or negative. First, if A is less than or equal to B and C is positive, then AC is less than or equal to BC. When we multiply both sides of an inequality by a positive quantity, the inequality remains unchanged. But if A is less than B and C is negative, then AC is greater than or equal to BC. So when we multiply both sides of an inequality by a negative quantity, the inequality sign reverses. For example, if we want to solve the inequality 2/3 x is less than or equal to 5, we can multiply on both sides by the positive quantity 3/2 and maintain inequality. Therefore, x is less than or equal to 15/2. To solve the inequality negative 2x is less than or equal to 5, we want to multiply on both sides by a negative 1/2. When we multiply by a negative 1/2, the inequality sign reverses. Notice that the inequality sign should be reversed as soon as we multiply by the negative quantity. Then x is greater than or equal to a negative 5/2. A compound inequality is a statement that involves more than one inequality. A common type of compound inequality is used to indicate that one quantity is between two other quantities. Let's solve the compound inequality -1 is less than minus 2x plus 3 is less than or equal to 5. We essentially have two inequalities that together say negative 2x plus 3 is between -1 and 5. We can subtract 3 from all sides of the compound inequality, producing -4 less than negative 2x less than or equal to 2. Again, we want to multiply by a negative 1/2, and we must reverse the inequality signs. So 2 is greater than x is greater than or equal to negative 1. It's somewhat usual to write inequalities in numerical order, so we would flip this around and write negative 1 is less than or equal to x is less than 2.